What do you really know about your investments and your financial advisor? Gary Sinderbrand, a veteran advisor and founder of Better Path Training, has spent decades helping both financial advisors and their clients get it right when it matters most. Gary pulls back the curtain on the advisory world to reveal the truths, the gaps, and the opportunities that most people never hear about, but absolutely should. It's about more than money. It's about legacy, trust, and making sure the people you care about are in the right hands. Welcome to If the Public Only Knew. Now here's your host, Gary Sinderbrand.
Today I want to talk about something that may have you looking at your shoes. And you're thinking to yourself, how does he know that? Well, because I've done this job for more years than I can care to remember, made most, if not all, of the mistakes, and have a graduate degree from the School of Hard Knocks. Oftentimes, I'll talk to financial advisors and ask them what they do throughout the course of their day. And I usually hear things like, well, I get up and I check the markets before I go into work. My first question would be, why do you do that? Well, I want to be prepared for what's going on. Oh, I see. So you're going to react based on what's happening that morning before you even get to work to kind of plan your day. Are you building big positions in certain equities you're following? Or are you trying to build a great business? Which is it? It used to be the first one. Now it's primarily the second one. And believe it or not, how you are in the market, equities selection, how you do relative to your picks in the bond market and all the rest of it doesn't really matter at all relative to the success you will eventually have. I had a client recently at a major firm. He had his CFP. He also had his SEMA. Pretty good combination. What he didn't have was a real book. What he thought would happen was when people saw his qualifications, they would run his way. Hired me to kind of get it figured out. And I said, it's great to have a bunch of initials on the card, but since most investors have no idea what they mean, and at the same time, no idea what they want to try and accomplish, let's go a different way. And let's understand that the most successful advisors out there are the most successful communicators and have the ability to not just become great listeners, but to truly empathize and put themselves into the shoes of the clients they're talking to. Understanding that most people are out of their realm, they've been successful to accumulate money and continue to save, but when they walk into an FA, essentially, they're terrified. They've heard bad stories. They don't know what you're going to do, what it's going to cost, what's realistic and what's not. You need to think about the advisor-client relationship and recognize that from one side of the desk, this is what you do every day. From the other side of the desk, you're talking to a client or a prospective client, and basically their default emotion is fear. So in a lot of ways, we need to function as therapists. We have to help them work through the anxieties they have and provide realistic reassurance, not just during turbulent times, but all the time. This brings me to one of my extraordinarily sensitive topics, which is, I don't care how much money someone has. If they're on your book, you owe them a sense of loyalty. You owe them the best you can deliver. If the best you can deliver is you're ignoring them, not only is it unfair to them and you've broken the bond that you had at some point when they were the most important client you brought on board, but by the same token, you don't know what's going on with them and they can actually come back and it can actually hurt you. Think about a book that has, for the sake of argument, 200 households. The FA has been in business 20 years. And if the book lines up like every other book out there, it's going to be about 100 households, maybe 120 households. Assuming the book has $200 million in it, those 120 households probably have something on the order of 20 or 25 million. The other 80 households have the rest of the money. The other 80 households are producing probably over 90% of the overall revenue, and they hold 85 or 90% of the assets. Forgive me on my math. I'm not working with PowerPoint or Excel today, so I'm kind of winging it. But ask yourself this question. pull a run of your entire household base. Take a look at it, line it up from the perspective of household name, assets under management, trailing 12, and then if it doesn't compute the ROA, stick it in an Excel file and you compute the ROA. I would bet you when you go down and look at the lowest ROAs, they're going to be clients that you rarely talk to anymore. You have no idea what's going on, and you drop the ball. Now, you might say to yourself, oh, they don't take a lot of time. It's a few $100 each year in C shares or some trail or all the rest of it. But the reality of it is really simple. You're not doing your job. You've got 200 households, or considered to be the hub, and you've got 200 spokes going out, all of which you're responsible for. I don't care how much money they have. If each of those people on that spoke looks down at the hub, they want to see you. They only know about you. You got to know about 200. And every single one of them wishes they were the only client you had. So here's a challenge. Take a look at your book of clients. Identify the people that are paying most for your time. They're going to be in your top tiers. They're going to be people that are paying you 80 to 90% of your income. First question, are you giving them 80 to 90% of your time? Again, looking at your shoes, no, I'm too busy. Doing what exactly? What? Checking your email? Looking at what the market's doing? Waiting for the phone to ring? It's bullshit. My attitude was really simple. I had an upper limit of 125 households because when I basically solved for that, I realized that I could contact each and every one of them somewhere between 7 and 9 times per year. The majority of those calls had nothing to do with the market. The majority of those calls had to do with making them believe they were the only client I had. I'll share a quick story. 2 clients I had earlier in my career, really nice people. First client, well, let's call him Mike. Mike was slightly to the right of, let's say, Robert Byrd. He's married to a lovely woman. Let's call her Carol. And Carol was probably to the left of AOC. Somehow they got along. Mike was in the sales business, great guy. His wife worked, I think she ran a thrift shop or something like that. But somehow it all worked out. So on the phone one day, I call and I have basically Carol on the phone, calling to check in. How's everything doing? Gary, I can't talk right now. I've got to take Fluffy to the vet. I'm like, what's a Fluffy? Oh, Fluffy's my long-haired cat. Really sick. I'm really worried. I got to go. Anything I need to know? No, Carol, just checking in. Everything's fine. Off she goes. Following month, I call back. Mike picks up. Hey, Mike, Sinderbrand here. How's Fluffy? It's like, what? I said, Fluffy, the cat. How's she doing? What are you talking about? Well, last month I spoke with Carol. She was very upset and she was running Fluffy to the vet. And there's silence. And then he goes, that damn cat, $200 to find out it can't stop licking itself and it's hocking up hairballs. I said, oof. He goes, that's Carol's cat. I hate cats. I said, I get it. I understand. He then asked me, he goes, how did you know about Fluffy? I said, Mike, when I called to speak with Carol and she told me, you have to realize you are my only client. I need to know as much as possible because I have nothing else to do but make sure you guys are okay. He cracked up. He was in sales. He said, man, that's good. I got to use that. But the reality of it was, that's the type of relationship I had with every client that mattered. My book grew from great people that I gave service to, and I lost track of how many times I would hear on a non-market related call, just because I was thinking about the client, I would hear, funny that you called. I was just talking to so-and-so and so-and-so, and they never hear from their guy unless they want to do something. Oh, really? Should I be talking to that person? Half the time they'd say, yeah, hang on, I'll conference you in. Guys, I never made a cold call. My book came from networking with financial professionals, which I will cover at some point, and also from talking to people I really cared about as frequently as possible, especially when we needed to do something as it related to their portfolio. If you're not proactive in your communication, you're making a mistake. Now, most people will say, well, you need to be really proactive when the market's going south. You need to be reaching out on the calls to really reassure people. Reassure them of what? That you're watching their portfolios lose value? How about instead, you have a discipline that allowed you to recognize that over the past 3 or 4 years, the market outperformed dramatically. And if you were doing it the right way, the way I do it, I'm not saying it's always right, but it does work. You've been taking money away from risk assets, rebalancing back to the indicated asset allocation or even the original asset allocation you started with. So when you get into a period like we're in right now, where it looks like this market is kind of on the express train south, you're not calling up and saying, oh, long-term equities are going to do great. Don't worry. Everything's going to work out. Yeah, that's awesome. Wonderful. And maybe if your client had 15 years to recover when they started with you, maybe that makes sense. But maybe they're one of those people that just got laid off. Maybe they're one of those people that don't have time to replace it. And all those great forecasts you did, where all they needed was a 7% rate of return, and they could live the life they want, all of a sudden, because you had too much money in equities, feeling really good about what the values of the portfolio were, all of a sudden we get a drop, and you start to become familiar with the mathematics of loss. Google that sometime. Probably turn your stomach. I know it does with a lot of clients when they realize it. So, what do we need to do? It's pretty simple. Think about having a book that has one client. Now, obviously, that's should be taken figuratively, not literally. But think about what you need to do to give every single client on your book the impression that they are the only one there. If you show they're important to you, they will reciprocate in spades. They will never leave you, and they will do everything they can to make sure that you're having a great experience, including introducing you to other people just like them. This is not theory, guys. I built almost a $500 million book doing exactly this, and I never made a freaking cold call. Give it a try. You might be surprised. Thanks for tuning in. Please subscribe. Tell your friends. Talk to you again real soon. See ya.
Thanks for checking out If the Public Only Knew with Gary Sinderbrand. If you found today's episode helpful, be sure to follow the show and share it with another advisor, investor, or friend. For more on Gary or to check out any links mentioned in the episode, head to the show notes. We'll see you next time.